These are elections that take place at a time when Albania has started negotiations with the EU. We opened them with the fundamentals, where rule of law, democracy are key because they're the core values of the European Union, and they have also quite significant dynamism because we've opened 2 more clusters and there's more to come. And therefore, that's why I also wanted to, travel around the country during election day to get firsthand experience of the elections. But most importantly, I wanted to show how, the EU was interested in them and how we wanted to support also all the institutions that are fundamental for the smooth running of an election. Principally, of course, the Central Electoral Commission, and I met Mr. Celibashi in Tirana, and then, of course, SPAC and the General Prosecution Office. So this was the message that I wanted to give.
Like the EU's eyes are on this very much.
Yeah, but not in a threatening way. But simply to say this is important, guys. This is part of your path towards the European Union, and as a message of support also. If I have to look at the campaign, well, I would like to refer also to the ODIHR recommendations, because as I also said during election day, for us, the guiding principle is the ODIHR report. We rely on them because they have long-term observers. They've been in the country for a while.
There's hundreds of them.
Hundreds of them. My trip around the country for a day is not really giving me a real appreciation of what the issues might be or what the progress might be that has been achieved compared with previous elections. So for me, the yardstick is the ODIHR report, and they have looked both at the campaign and also on election day, and now they're monitoring the whole counting process. So for the electoral campaign, they have referred to the sort of very polarized environment in which the campaign took place, which in my view is a bit of a lost opportunity. I think if you want people and citizens to decide in an informed way which party to vote, you should have debates about content, about programs, about their vision of what Albania...
And face-to-face as well.
And face-to-face,
I want to see them battling it out over, sorry to interrupt, but,
No.
I was doing the news headlines every day, and everyone was coming out with a different promise every day. We're going to do this, we're going to forgive that, we're going to give you this much money, but there was never any, how are you going to do it? Where are you going to get that money from? How are you going to plug that gap in the budget? There was no sort of critical analysis or thinking of this, and no chance for them to debate each other on it. And I think that impacts people. It makes things more polarized.
And that's how you can contribute to a mature electorate, people that don't just believe firsthand to what is being said, but also question these promises, let's say. And that there you need, a dialectic interaction, and that there's also the responsibility of media. But no offense to Euronews or any of the local media, but we know what the problems are, and we've been pointing them out over the years in our progress reports. Lack of transparency regarding ownership, excessive media concentration, working conditions for journalists, which are very precarious, and means that you're much more vulnerable to, editorial influence and so on and so forth. So all these issues clearly do not contribute to an informed political debate during the campaign. ODIHR has been pointing it out. NGOs that monitor also the media environment have been pointing it out. For example, that what to the sort of naive eye of a citizen could have been a report about a certain issues, in fact, was a prepackaged, product that has been delivered to the television, and the television simply broadcast it. But that's electoral campaign in a way, and it should be. There's nothing wrong with it as long as you say this has been provided by party X or party Y, and people know.
But there was also a problem with fake news as well. I saw so much. I mean, there was one media which published fake results, and it's like, but I don't understand the logic.
That is serious. Yeah.
How can you publish fake results and like, what are you going to do when the truth comes out? But I think people get so blinded and they believe. And, you know, I saw videos that had been edited and sort of manipulated and things, and it just really chips away at the general confidence. You know, you yourself were victim to some fake news as well.
Yes.
Do you want to say anything about it, to put any misconceptions?
Well, first of all, about fake news and disinformation in general, because I don't know if you know, but when I was still in Brussels, so before New York and before coming here, I was director in charge of communications and strategic communications, and I started the whole process of addressing Russian disinformation. So I'm quite familiar with the phenomenon, and I'm also quite concerned by it, because I do think that it's a phenomenon that is undermining people's trust in our democracies. So it has to be tackled seriously, and media have a huge responsibility. You know, if I had a message to journalists, is please verify your sources.
Yes.
You know, please do not simply take some pre-packaged news and just rebroadcast it, because that can be quite dangerous. And as you know, there are people who are out there who want to be manipulative.
Yes.
And want to distort the perception that people have. Sometimes it's not even a question of convincing people. It's simply a question of instilling doubt and feeding mistrust. But if you feed mistrust, you undermine also democratic institutions, and you undermine the relationship between citizens and authorities. Whereas that relationship should be a relationship of accountability. You know, I keep you accountable. And in order to keep you accountable, I need real information, facts, the kind of debate that we were referring to. That's what's important. As far as the episode that concerns me, frankly, I think we made it very clear that what the EU does and does not. I also made it clear when I did some, press point outside the Central Electoral Commission that we all know that the ODIHR reports do not refer to specific persons. They refer to phenomena. You know, they say we've noted irregularities. So the idea that I interfered and asked to remove names is completely, out of place. And one should not forget either that when ODIHR presented its reports, it presented it under the sort of monitoring of parliamentarians, so people, with different political backgrounds. And that's precisely to ensure that there is no political bias.
And it's not an EU entity either.
No, not
it's
at all.
Like
it's
you're
completely
their boss
independent.
Or something,
it's completely independent. So yes, that's all I have to say about it.
Yes. Now, on the day itself, we talk about fake news and things, but there are reports, and the report mentions it as well, of voter pressuring, vote buying. We know these things go on. And I'm wondering, I sometimes feel that people expect the EU to be like, you bought a vote, so I'm stopping you from joining the EU. Like you are like the king who decides, the path of Albania. But I guess, and this was a question when I said I was interviewing you today, a lot of people asked, what happens to people? Is there any repercussions from the EU level? I don't know if repercussions is the right word. If people are found to have been involved in vote buying, in pressuring, in irregularities with the election, does the EU have the power to do anything about it?
No.
Or is it just sort of, don't do that again, or we're not going to close that cluster?
Well, I mean, as I said before, these elections are important also for the negotiations. And that was also a clear message given by the head of the European Parliament delegation, Michel Gala. He said very clearly, you have to make progress if you want to join, and please look at the recommendations of ODIHR, because these are very important recommendations. That's why we echoed them in the EU statements that was, released by Kaja Kallas, the High Representative, and Commissioner Marta Kos. So we really expect certain irregularities to be addressed, and we expect also crimes that were committed to be investigated and lead to conviction.
Yes.
If these suspicions are founded. That's why, when it comes to these kind of events, it's not for the EU to sanction or anything. We trust the authorities who are in place, the electoral authorities, but also the judicial authorities. I really welcome the fact that the Central Electoral Commission, SPAC, and GPO worked together. They had this memorandum of understanding. I saw it happening. That's why in fear I went to see them, because I thought it was really important that they work together. They don't waste time thinking, is this for DPO, general prosecution? Is this for SPAC? They sort it out and they act quickly, because that's how you increase the confidence of people. When they when they see that something happens and the authorities intervene, the police intervenes, etc. Not perfect. The OD report, you've read it yourself, has a lot of criticism in that respect. And that's why in the statement that the EU has made, we put a lot of emphasis on the need to accelerate the reforms, including the electoral reform. We need a comprehensive electoral reform that addresses all these issues. Time is up.
So it
has to be done.